G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, October the 17th, 2022. Forgive me, I've got a little bit of dog hair on me at the moment, so apologies for that. Lyndon Hosking is my name. Great to have you along as always. What a weekend we've had in boxing. A bit of an understatement to say it was a massive weekend. So much going on. It was a pleasure to be down at the fight. I'm going to run through that tonight. I'm going to go through the week that was last week, plenty going on, and then of course the weekend fights as well. So it's always good when these big fights come around. You get to just mix with the fellow members of the boxing fraternity, and you hang around in the hotels and obviously at the gyms and the fights and that sort of stuff. And there's just so much going on. I mean, probably one of the best memories I have is 2017 when Jeff Horn fought Manny Pacquiao up in Brisbane. I still remember being at the hotel. We were there. I think we were there for 3 or 4 days before the fight. It might have been 4 or 5 days actually. Every day spent at the hotel where everyone was staying, and didn't really move, to be honest. Just sitting down. The whole foyer was just full of boxing people. I was just sort of moving from one table to the next and just talking boxing all day. So if you're boxing tragic like me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are, great time. So if you're familiar with the show, of course, this is your show. It's Talking Boxing. If you're new, the way we work it is I will go through an agenda, pretty easy one tonight. We're going to go through the whole weekend of fights with the Top Rank, so Cambosa's Haney card, and also the Paro and Jarvis card as well, and a few other bits and pieces going on. Now, a little bit different. If you want to come on the show, we have the ability to do that. If you want to discuss anything as we go, if you're not really comfortable with doing that, then by all means just put your comment or question in the comment section there, and we'll do what it says there. We'll talk some boxing. So let's get into it. So it all started for me, fight week started on Thursday. I went down to the gym in Yarraville. Lim Jecker owns the gym. Lim, great guy, great trainer, of course, the trainer of Susie Roman, and we'll get to that later. Went down there to see the Maloney boys. Hadn't seen him for quite some time, obviously with the COVID situation and everything else that was going on the last couple of years. So it was really good to catch up with the boys. Angelo Hyder was there as well. And as I said, I hadn't seen him for quite some time. So watched the boys train. It was only a light one. Obviously only, 3 or 4 days before the fight, so they didn't really do a lot. But it was just good to have a chat. Watch the boys and just see how much they've improved. Forgot how little they were, to be honest. They're only tiny little fellas, or men, but just great guys. And so I watched them train. Had a bit of a chat. Had a coffee afterwards, which was really good. And then on to Friday. I think we did the live show. I think it must have been it was that night. It was Thursday night. So I'm not sure whether you would have seen that out there. If you haven't, check it out. It's on YouTube. We did a live episode of the Deep Dive show, and it was myself, Tassie Brown, and Peter Maniatis. It's good to actually have Peter back. So I think he'll be back this week. We'll try and get Noonan Boy on as well, and we'll see how we go. I'm not sure we'll do it live every week, but we'll see how we go. Shane, straight off the bat there, mate. Matchroom card was great. It was, mate. It was awesome. We're going to get to that. The Matchroom's first foray into the Australian market, and with the zone, of course. So we'll go over that. And also we've got Andy there. Hello, fans, Lyndon and chat. Great to have you along, mate. So now I get told to do this every week. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I'm not quite sure how it works. We're nearing about 500 people on YouTube, which is great. You've got to start somewhere, and we're slowly building. I wasn't aware it'd probably take this long to sort of build your, we'll call it the fan base or subscriber base, but really enjoying with the whole channel at the moment. A lot of feedback, and it was actually good at the fights on Sunday to actually catch up with a few people that watch the show. They come and introduce themselves, so that was awesome. So again, really appreciate you guys watching, and let's build the channel. And as I said before, let's get some of you guys on. Not that it's a prerequisite, but the ability's there. If you actually want to come on and get your point across or ask a question, then by all means hit the link, which I'll put up in a sec. That's the other thing I'll remind myself to do. Where are we? Let's see. How do I do this? All right, here we go. I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to put it in there and hit the... Okay, so the link's in there. If any of you want to come on, as I said, not a big thing, but if you want to get a little bit more into it and have a bit more discussion, by all means hit the link and come on. But If you've got a question, comment, whatever, and put it in. So let's get on with it. The fight itself, I went down to the weigh-in on Saturday. I've got to thank my co-host on the Deep Dive show, Tassie Brown. I had to pull a favour from Tassie to get in there because I got down there and there's no general public allowed. Now, I didn't sort of pull the whole, well, hey, I'm media and we've got our own show thing. I asked to go and they said, no, you've got to come in. It's only for pass holders and officials and VIPs and all that sort of stuff. So I had to ring my good mate Tassie. I said, mate, I need a favour because he's there with Fight Hype. Was with Noonan Boy, Australian Boxing Central, so he was there with them, followed the whole team around all week, so it was a great experience for Tassie. Spoke to him today and he was over the moon. Pretty sure him and Bill Haney are best mates now, so we'll see what happens there for Tassie, but really happy for him that he got the ability to spend the week with Team Haney and, you can't buy those types of experiences. So Tassie came out, gave me his wristband, which was good. If anyone can con someone to get past the coats at the entrance, it's Tassie. So he got me in, so thank you. Lim Jack as well. So I got in there, and I was really surprised, I will say, with the weigh-in. I know the first time around, I wasn't here for it, but I know that apparently they charge people to get in. They wanted a big crowd at the weigh-in, so they charged people. I didn't agree with that at all. I've been to plenty of fights in Vegas, and I've never charged people. Actually, I take that back. They did charge people for the Pacquiao weigh-in, which is probably to be expected. They can rape another $500,000 out of us. Well, good luck to them, I suppose. But that's probably the only time. So I was critical at the time about that, and I don't back away from that. I thought it was pretty ordinary to charge people to get into a weigh-in, because that's one of the best things about it, is getting there and have heaps of people there, and everyone's going nuts and going crazy, and it did get crazy, by the way, which we'll get into a sec. And then this time around, they weren't going to let anyone in, which I think was even worse. So it was a little bit sort of boring in there, I must say. It was probably about 100 people, maybe 110, 120, whatever it was. Most of them were Team Haney, Team Cambosis, and a few press and all the rest of it. But got in there, and it was all pretty routine until, of course, the main event fighters came on. Of course, George Cambosis and Devin Haney. Now, I must have been on the day. I didn't actually see what happened. I just saw everyone sort of going nuts and wasn't quite sure what happened. Watching it in replay, of course, I think what happened was Devin Haney actually went to push George's arm away. George then pushed his arm away. Devin Haney, his dad, Bill, saw what happened and raced in. Of course, then George Cambosis' fans see what Bill Haney's doing, and then it's on. And then, of course, all the hangers-on, all the ones in tracksuits and think they've got part to do with it all day, they've got to get the chest puffed out, and they've got to, well, you throw one, I'll throw one. Come on, guys. It was a little bit farcical in the end. And then someone in the crowd might have said so. And then there was about 8 people ran over and had to be separated. That is the sort of thing that gives boxing a bad name, I think. And it's not the boxers or the officials. It's all the hangers-on and the teams. Or not so much the teams, but the hangers-on that think they're part of it. And they all jump in, as I said, puff the chest out. And, none of them will back down. It was just ridiculous. It really was. A little bit argy-bargy. Should have just been broken up in a few words. George got the hell out of there, which I thought was smart. His dad got out of there, which was even smarter. And I think Devin Haney, I think he might have got out of there as well. But come on, guys. There's nothing worse than just seeing guys puffing the chest out that are just, Anyway, that's another conversation, I suppose. James Daly, thanks for coming on, James. Tassie should push some of those Fight Hype views over here. Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? He's been going really well. Fight Hype have obviously got a lot of followers, but they've been in the game for a long time. A little bit different to what we do as well. I get asked all the time, about, with the interviews and all that sort of stuff. And I must admit, I did look at that at the start about, and we did, if you look at a lot of our early shows, we used to have interviews every week on the Deep Dive show. We were getting people on. But look, to be honest with you, one, it was hard because a lot of those people trying to get on are so unreliable. They don't turn up, they're late, their internet's not working, they don't know how to work. It's a whole different things. But that aside, look, I decided that I wanted the show to go down more the analytical path. And as the show says, deep dive, so more discussion, analysis, and that sort of thing, rather than just interviewing fighters and that sort of stuff. Plenty of other social media sites out there that do that, and good luck to them. That's what they do. But as I said, our sort of niche in it is to actually analyse and discuss, and as I said, so Not to say we won't get some people on maybe going forward for standalone interviews. We have, of course, done the blog or vlogs or whatever the hell they're called when we went to Vegas. I hope you guys like that. So I like sort of doing that sort of stuff. I was actually on a talk show or another YouTube show on Friday, I think it was, D-Style Boxing. So check it out. I was on that with another 5 or 6 people on there talking boxing. It was really interesting to be on the other side. So the host on there, it's an American channel, and it was interesting to be one of the panel rather than actually hosting it and controlling the action. So a little bit of a different spin, but really enjoyed it. The guys on there and girls really knew their boxing. The Americans are just a little bit different to us Aussies. It's a mainstream sport for them. I know we all love our boxing over here, but those guys, they follow boxing like we follow football or soccer or whatever it might be. It's really an experience, and they know all the fighters' records and who they fought when and what the scores were, and it's just a whole different ball game. And we're a very, very dedicated audience over here as well, but it's only very small. Over there, it's big. So they really know the stuff, and it was a great event. So shout out to Eric on D-Style Boxing, so check it out. All right, Shane, what do you got there, mate? Joe the jeweler, Haney's personal jewellery guy, was playing up and got banned from the fight by the venue. I did see that. I'm not quite sure which one he was. I've got a feeling I know which one it was based on what I saw happen. But, mate, there should have probably been a few more. I think, look, this catch-22 thing. Being a promoter myself in the past, you've got this catch-22 thing of having all the people on the stage, and there's a bit of argy-bargy, and it looks good, and maybe it might sell some tickets. I know I did actually, I might be out of school saying this, but I did hear Lou DiBella say afterwards to someone, yeah, that's sold another 1,000 tickets, so how good's that? So that's the balancing act you've got, but compared to, well, let's just have no one on stage except the fighters, maybe the chief second or the trainer, maybe the manager, of course, the promoter, and let's just get all those hangers off the stage so that we can actually see what's going on. Because the other thing I hate, and I've said this on this show before, when you get the guys together and every buffhead's got his head in the picture and you can't actually get a proper shot of the fighters, and that even extends to the promoter. The promoter's always right there, and you got the guys on either side, and the promoter's sitting there or standing there just for the weighing pictures. Get the hell out of there and let the fighters just be all about them. Because let's face it, it's the last time we see them before the fight. So we've had all the press conferences, we've had all the other bullshit they go on with, and the media and all the other stuff we go on. It's always the face-offs, and you always got the promoter in there. I'm going to petition to actually say to the promoters, in that last ever weigh-in photo opportunity, it's the last time we see the guys, get out the road and make it all about the fighters, and get all the officials as well, all the sanctioning bodies, their little buffheads have got to get in there so they can be seen, and then you got all the other hangers on. I'm over it. I hate it. What do we got there? James again. Glenn Jennings is a special guest. Yes, he is. Very good point, James. I found out about that today. Glenn Jennings is on the D-Style Boxing show tomorrow at 11 a.m. So check it out, because I think Shannon O'Connell's been on it before. I think, I'm not sure whether Shanika Johnson's been on it before. No, Susie Roman's been on it. Tim Zoo's been on it. And of course, yours truly. So, yeah, look, it's a really good show. I think they've been going for about 2 years now, and he just said to me afterwards, it's very tough to build the things. So that's what we're doing. We're going to keep pushing these different bits of content out to hopefully get our audience up, which is happening. But we'll see how we go. Yeah, D-Style. That's it, James. Thanks for that, mate. So, D-Style Boxing. I'll see if I can work out how to put the link in a bit later for that. So, yeah, check Glenn out, because I'm sure they have plenty to say. And, of course, we'll all be over in Vegas with Glenn and Tim and all the rest of the team in late January. So, can't wait for that as well. So, that's my view on the weigh-in. I know I'm probably being a little bit picky, a little bit petty with the whole weigh-in thing, but I just think, look, guys, can we just keep it sort of civil and make that the last time we're actually, professionals? But anyway, just my point of view. So, of course, down to the fights on the Sunday. I did say the weigh-in was Saturday, didn't I? But anyway, it was Saturday. The fights on Sunday is really good. Went along with Uncle Ronnie Picken. I know Ronnie really well, of course. He was on the talk back the other night. So we had really good seats, really good to catch up, as I said before, with a couple of guys from the channel that watched the channel that introduced themselves. So shout out to those guys. But look, really had a good day. I thought the fights were really good. The atmosphere was great. I will say, though, that the crowd, for me, was a little bit disappointing. I'm sure they would have still made a shitload of money off pay-per-views, but you got to put it in context. 40-odd thousand for the first fight at Marvel Stadium. I think there maybe would have been 8, maybe 9,000 at this fight, which is not too bad, of course. And again, as I said, they still would have made a lot of money. But this is why I've said right from the start, I think if the rematch was going to be in Australia, they should have had it in Sydney. Now, Melbourne is a home of sport in Australia, don't get me wrong, but Melburnians or Victorians love an event. They'll support the event. They'll come out in numbers. They'll make it a smashing success. But to try and do it again in such a limited time afterwards, there's so much going on in Victoria all the time, especially in Melbourne, all the time there's events and that. People are like, yeah, well, we did that in June. Yeah, there's something else going on, we're going to do that. And yeah, well, I've been there and done that. So that's why it doesn't sort of work so soon. That's why I think the numbers dropped off dramatically this time. I think would have been better to go back to Sydney, George's hometown, do it there, and maybe they would have got 20,000 at another venue there. Just my thoughts. But it's happened in the past with, I think they brought the rugby league to Victoria for the first time years ago. They got I think it was 94,000 or something there for that event. So, of course, they come back straight away the next year, let's go, and they got half of that. So now I think they only do it every 3 or 4 years, which is good. You've got to give the Melbourne or Victorian fans a chance to, get the hunger back for it. Because if it's not football, it takes a bit to get them back for another go at it. So that would have been my suggestion. But look, end of the day, the atmosphere was awesome, I will say. Once the main event started, it was great, and they really got into it. So it was really good. So let's just go through the fights as it started. And again, if you guys have got some comments in there, put them in there, or the links there if you want to come on. So the first one, I'll go to the swing bout last, I think. We had David Nyika. He fought Titi Motusaga. Pretty routine win for David, I thought. Motusaga was, hang on, what we got there? Yes, good point, mate. Could it be because Vic Gov was paying? Yeah, well, that's the other point, of course. They would have put, I've heard it was, in the millions what they gave for the event. So that's fine. And it's all about money. They need to make the money, and that's cool. Good point there. But I'm not sure whether and this is the other thing that surprises me with the New South Wales government. The Victorian government will give out big dollars. That's why they've got every major event in the country. They've got the tennis, the Formula One, the cricket, of course, the footy every week, horse racing, all that sort of stuff. That all the big events are always in Melbourne because the Victorian government hand out a shitload of money. So I'm surprised that the New South Wales, considering the rivalry, haven't decided to one up Melbourne or Victoria by handing out even more money to try and steal these events. That's what I'd be doing if I was them anyway. But yeah, good point there, Andy. That is 100%. That they paid a shitload of money, but geez, you would have thought maybe the organisers could have gone to New South Wales and said, well, this is what Victoria is going to offer us, what are you going to offer us, and put it out a little bit to tender, because they'll pay for it. Having said that, though, I will say maybe because they weren't maybe confident in the event. George obviously got beaten pretty badly the first time, and maybe they didn't want to bid for it, and they had the Everest horse racing on this weekend as well, so lots of different reasons why, but that is the reason why Victorians didn't turn up, because, as I said, they like big events. I love big events, but it just takes time to build the need. And I will say, if you haven't been to the sporting precinct in Melbourne around Rod Laver Arena, make sure if you're in Melbourne you check it out. There's a reason why I think it's the best sporting precinct, not only in Australia, in the world. If you go there is so many stadiums all within walking distance of each other. It is amazing. Obviously, you've got the MCG, which is the crown the jewel in the crown, 100,000 people there. You walk across the road, there's Rod Laver Arena, of course, where the Melbourne Australian Open is. You've got Margaret Court Arena right beside that gets about 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people in there. Then you've got the centrepiece, which is the smaller venue, which is where I used to do my shows when it was a Melbourne Park Function Centre. You probably get a couple of thousand in there. Then you've got John Cain Arena, which gets about 8 or 9,000 in there as well. And then they've built another little boutique-y little stadium there. You probably get a couple of thousand in. Then across the road you've got Amy Park, and it all happens. It's all within walking distance. all accessible by public transport. So I'm expecting a check in the mail from the Victorian government the way I'm going and pumping them up. Have had my differences with them in the past, I will say. But yeah, so anyway, if you're in Melbourne, make sure you check it out. All right, so a routine win by Nyika. He went to 5-0. Motasaga dropped to 4-1. Next one was Lorenzo Simpson. He had a 6-round win over Marcus Hayward. Hayward was pretty tough, I've got to say. He was really tough. Simpson had to work for that. He went to 12-0. Hayward is now 6-5-1. They've got big raps on him, Simpson. I probably want to see a little bit more of him before I probably pass judgment on him. But definitely got all the tools, obviously with a really good team. So he should be on some big cards in the future, you'd think. So that was that one. The other one was Amari Jones. He had a 6-round decision over Tej Singh. It's probably always going to happen. Jones was the A side, the prospect. He moved to 8-0. Tej Singh 16-6-3. Probably a clear-cut decision, I thought, for Amari Jones. Singh hadn't fought for, I think, maybe 18 months or 2 years or something like that. Last time he fought was actually to Isaac Hardman in that disputed win. So I think that might have been a couple of years ago. Worst case, 18 months ago, I think. So, but the good thing about Singh, look, he's a bit of a journeyman, but he always comes to fight, always turns up, gives his all, and he's a tough guy. So that he was good. What have we got there, Paul? I'll get that comment up there. Great Aussie boxing over the weekend. Loved it. Good stuff, Paul. Just still a bit disappointed Kambosos couldn't find a way to hurt Haney. He's too elusive. At least George seemed to be at peace with it all. We did, mate. We're going to get to the main event in a second there. Next one was an upset. Fager Django Opaloo stopped Hemi Hoy, I think that's how you pronounce it, in the 4th round. Now, make no mistake about this, Opaloo was the B side. I actually had coffee with his trainers, Luke Meldon and Steve Della, the day before, so at the weigh-in. They were confident, but they were under no illusions what they were there for. They were there to make this Ahoy look good. It was 19-0, by the way. But Django, he put it on him and got him out of there in 4 rounds. I think this Ahoy, pretty much from what I saw at the weigh-in and a little bit of the media I saw during the week, pretty much expected just to turn up and get the win. Of course, he was the A side, and Django's a tough guy. He's got excellent trainers in Steve and Luke. And he got the job done. So and I think from what I heard afterwards that Django might have some big fights thrown at him overseas under Top Rank. So we'll see what happens there. It's amazing how it can turn, isn't it? You come in as the B side. He's coming off losses to Justice Honey and Lucas Brown. Gets in there, gets the job done over someone he's not supposed to beat. And all of a sudden he's got Top Rank saying, hey, we want you on our cards maybe over in the States. So it's amazing how it can turn around, and that's why you've got to take your opportunities and take these fights. Don't be afraid to put your record on the line. Get in there and take your opportunities. So good on Django. Well done, mate. Then into the main fights. First of all, wow, the girls' fight or the women's fight. Shanika Johnson, a 10-round decision over Susie Ramadan. Shanika Johnson moved to 15-1. Susie Ramadan dropped to 29-4. Wow, what about this fight, eh? Amazing. I'll just get a comment from Shane before we get on with that. Surprise win for Django. Look, fittest I've seen him in a few years. Yeah, well, I think Luke and Steve had a bit of a laugh about it. So what was the difference? What made him, why did he look fitter and stronger and healthier and all that? They said, well, they actually got him off the darts for a month or two, I think. He doesn't mind a smoke, does Django. And it made all the difference. He was up and about, and he got the job done. All right, so onto the women. So, geez, who would have thought what would happen, or what we saw happen with the cut? The first round was pretty uneventful, I thought. Not really much happened. Both girls boxing very cautiously. They've done a lot of rounds together over the years, hundreds of rounds probably. So they knew each other very, very well. So there was a bit of feeling out round, I think, just to see what each other had and what they were going to bring to the table. Then, of course, all hell broke loose in the second because there was a clash of heads, and it looked like Shanika Johnson had been hit in the head with an axe. It just split open. You could see it on the replay that the heads collided. Her head opened up, and there was just blood everywhere. I've been asked about this a lot in the last sort of day or so. Should it have been stopped? I think 100% yes, it should have been stopped. I know we all wanted to see the fight, and I'm glad we did get to see the fight because they got it under control, but when she went to the doctor at the start of the third round, I think it was, as she's talking to the doctor, there's blood spurting out, and into her eye and over her face. And I thought the fight was done, which would have been really disappointing at the time. I thought, oh, geez, we've come. I really wanted to see the fight, and this is the way it's going to end in a second round technical draw. But surprisingly, the doctor actually let the fight go. I thought he could have stopped it in any of the next 3 or 4 rounds, but surprisingly, as the fight went on, the cut seemed to congeal. The corner did an excellent job keeping the blood flow stemmed, and she just boxed really, really well. Probably the best I've seen her box, Shanika Johnson. Susie Roman, and of course, she had a point taken off, or I think it was 1, maybe even 2. I think it might have been. She got knocked down in the 4th, I think it was. Bit of a slip, being off balance more than anything. She did get hit, but off balance, got to count it though. Got the point taken off, and it was well warranted. I wasn't quite sure why Susie was complaining to her corner and the referee and anyone else that had listened, basically, about getting the points taken off. But yeah, she only had herself to blame, but she did get the point taken off for hitting on the back of the head. It was more than warranted. She'd been warned numerous times. She hit her on the back of the head 3 or 4 times. He had to take a point. No use looking at your corner and saying, well, what's going on, and arguing with the referee. So I think in hindsight she'll be disappointed with that. The one thing she will be really disappointed, I will say, are her comments after the fight. Now, I know Susie really well. I've promoted her in the past, and of course Lim, her trainer. I think if she had her time again, she would definitely take that back. It was very, very disappointing comments. If you didn't hear it, thanks Ross. Yep, knocked down and 2 points. 2 points off. Shame. First point was fair enough. The second I thought wasn't warranted. So it was 2 points, okay? Shame about the comments post-fight. Excellent work by Cutman. Cutman, yeah, 100%. So if you didn't see the comments, I'm assuming you all did, but just to go over it again. First of all, she said, well, the referee, he's had me before, and he was against me last time, and it looked more of a set-up to me. I'm probably assuming she was referring to Shanika Johnson being the A side, I suppose. Not that I don't think there was an A side. Neither one of them are promoted by Top Rank. She alluded that it was a setup. That was the first thing. Then it was a little bit peculiar about. She said, "Well, my name's Ramadan. I was born and raised here," and I don't know what she was actually getting at there. I'm assuming she's referring to Shanika Johnson being born in New Zealand, living in Australia. I don't really know where she was going with that, and it fell flat, whatever way it was, because the crowd reacted accordingly. And then, of course, it was about the whole doping or whatever it was, which, look, I knew there were some whispers going into the fight. They tried to get drug testing being a world title fight, and that's their right. But for some reason, maybe that's just the case with women's world title fights, but the IBF didn't enforce it. A little bit strange to me, I will say. I would have thought being a world title fight, there would be mandatory drug testing, but whatever, it wasn't there, so that's fine. But to say it in the ring, it's one thing to have whispers outside the ring and have your own thoughts about things, but to actually say the comments in the ring, as I said, I think if Susie had her time again, she would not say that again. And she did try and circle back in the press conference, but I don't think she really got her point across. I think she pretty much doubled down, to be honest. Sorry, Shane, I'll put your comments up. Yeah, so it was a 2 point. What was the first point taken off, guys? Was it the back of the head as well? I can't remember, and of course the knockdown. So there was 2. So pretty much it was 3 points down in a 10-round fight. I still thought that Shanika Johnson probably won 7 of the 10 rounds anyway. And then you've got the 3 points taken off. So it was a very comprehensive win, I thought, from Shanika Johnson. I'm not quite sure where Susie goes after this. I don't think she looks sharp. I know the weight wouldn't have helped. She had to go up 2 divisions, but it was her decision to go up, so you can't sort of complain about that now. She wanted to go up and chase the money, chase the title, chase the opportunity, so I don't think you can complain afterwards that I went up in weight, so that that had something to do with it. So, but yeah, I'm not quite sure where she goes. 43 years of age. Been there and done that. I'm just not quite sure what fights are left here in Australia. I don't think there's really anything for her overseas. One fight that might be an option for her is to maybe fight Taylor Robertson, super flyweight. I think she's the Commonwealth or Australian or Australasian or something champion. Just got a change of promoter. I think she's based with the Canadian one as well in conjunction with Tasman. I think that's the way it's going to work. So is that a fight for her? But apart from that, I really don't think that she's got much out there for her anymore. I think she said afterwards she might have maybe something in line with Top Rank. They've committed to another couple of fights with her, but who do they match her against? Does she just become an opponent? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, and the thing is with Susie, she's a very, very popular fighter. Very, very popular. They go to her fights in Melbourne. There's always a lot of her supporters there. She always packs out the venues. She's really popular online. And to see the comments on social media afterwards, the Boxing Central's, her own page, whatever it might be, was not very complimentary of her at all, which is a real shame because, Aussies especially don't like that type of response after a loss. They don't react well, and I'm sure it'll calm down. Just got to ask Michael Zarafa about the vitriol of Aussie boxing fans. If you lose them, you lose them. So let's hope that's not the case for Susie, and she might get an opportunity. But as I said, at 43 years of age, I'm just not sure where she goes. So we'll see. So she got outboxed, not out-muscled. Yeah, mate, she did. Shanika Johnson didn't really try and put it on her. She just boxed her really, really well. And the thing that really surprised me a little bit was that I thought that Susie would have been the aggressor, even though she was smaller. She would have been more the aggressor, and Shanika maybe would have boxed her a little bit more. But it wasn't the case. Shanika was actually the one pushing the fight, but boxing smart at the same time. Where Susie sort of backed on. I just don't think that's her style, to be on the back foot trying to box a bigger opponent. So so look, I don't know. I know they were very frustrated afterwards, and as I've been speaking about there, that the comments weren't, I don't think warranted, and as I said, I think she wouldn't be too kind to herself when she looks at the replay. All right, hitting after break call from ref, I think. Was that the first one, Ross? Okay, mate, I wasn't aware of that. I definitely was aware of the behind the head and then the knockdown. Because then I think after the third point, or the second point was taken away, and after the knockdown, I just got the feeling that she sort of spat the chewy a little bit and thought, well, I'm not going to win now, so I'm just going to go through it. And I mean, she tried. Let's face it, women's boxing, you don't really see those big comeback knockouts. You don't really see a lot of knockouts at all. So it was always going to be really tough for her, especially against a quality fighter in Shanika Johnson. So she was frustrated. She knew that she wasn't going to win. I think the frustration sort of grew and grew and grew. But anyway, that's boxing. You have some good nights, have some bad nights, and that was just a really bad night for her. Shane again there, mate. I thought Taylor as well, but I think she'll really struggle and possibly stopped against Taylor. Yeah, I'm not quite sure she'll get stopped, Shane. I don't think Taylor's a big puncher either, although she does have volume punching. I don't think she goes anywhere near stopping Susie. I think she's too experienced and a bit too cagey for that. But I just think Taylor's work rate, her speed, really good ability. I'm not quite sure Susie can go with her. We'll see. But that just seems to be the biggest fight for me. Stephen Ladd, how are you, mate? Thanks for tuning in. Good to have you along. We're just talking boxing here, mate. We're just talking about Shanika Johnson and Susie Roman. Again, guys, if you guys have got comments about what I'm speaking about here with Susie Ramadan's performance or behaviour after the fight, put them in there. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because having known Susie for a few years now, and as I said before, promoting her, very unlike her, and I think again it was banned out of frustration. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll see what happens there. We'll get into some positives of the night, which for me, the Maloney boys, Jason and Andy. Look, I will say, and speaking to the boys afterwards, I don't think they were overly happy with their performance, but I think a lot of that had to do with their opponents. And don't make any mistake about the quality of the opponents they had. Now, Norberto Jimenez at Fort Andrew, he was 31-9-6, but he lost 8 of his first 9 fights. He was on a really good winning streak. His only loss was to Talia Five for the world title a couple of years ago. So he was a tough customer. But again, he was like, after the first 3 or 4 rounds, all he did was complain the whole time. He clearly hit Andy. Actually was on the back. He was hitting on the break. Clearly hit him on the break. Got the point taken off, mate. You got no one to blame except yourself. Doesn't matter what language you speak. You know the rules of boxing. And if the referee says break and you then hit Andy with a left hook to the head, well, you're going to get a point taken off. I'm sorry. And there's no use putting the arms out and blaming the ref and blaming your corner and blaming the crowd, whoever you're blaming. You're blaming everyone except yourself. Andy, look, I was rapt that he kept his calm. He shook his head at Jimenez and said, all right, yep, no drama, you got me that one. A little bit of to and fro each way, but he's only got himself to blame. And look, Andy won clearly. He moves to 25-2. Jimenez dropped to 31, 10, and 6. And Andy just got the job done. He did exactly what he had to do. These guys, I mean, everyone out there, why did he knock him out? No, these guys, you just can't walk. These guys that are top 2 or 3 in the world, you just don't go out there and knock them out. It takes a lot of setting up, good strategy, and things to go your way. And Andy did exactly what he had to do just to get the win. He was winning the round, so why take the risk of getting cut or getting hurt or whatever it might be? So I was really happy with Andrew Maloney's performance. He was frustrated afterwards that Jimenez, I think after about the 5th round, really was just trying to hold him and tie him up and not really trying to win the fight. Where Andy just, as I said, he just got the rounds in. Stephen, I missed most of the weekend. We had 6 boxers fighting in the South Australian state titles. Well, mate, you missed a massive weekend of boxing. But lucky for you, I'm going to go through all the fights and you can have your own views. But that's good to see you still involved there, mate, with the South Aussie state titles. But it was just, I don't think we've seen a weekend like this for a long time, especially the week before with the Newcastle fights as well. So it's all happening at the moment. Salute to you, my man. Base, oh man. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the comment. I don't think you've joined us before, so great to have you along, mate. If you've got a question or whatever, then put it in the comments. Or I did put the link in before. I'll put it in again. If any of you guys want to actually come on and say good day, hit the link. You'll go into a waiting room, and then I'll bring you on. But anyway, we'll proceed on to his brother, Jason Maloney. He beat Nawafon. Now, I've got to pronounce this right. Nawafon Kaikanya. He was 50-1 going into 56-1 going into the fight. Now, I thought that this Thai guy, he gave Jason all he could handle. He was a really, really good fighter. I was very impressed with the Thai. And a lot of people said, geez, I've never seen Jason sort of back up like that before. Well, sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do to win the fight. I think if this Thai guy was not taking a backward step, so if Jason had fought him head on, again, there's the risk of the head clashes or an elbow or a lucky punch or just being outworked on the inside. So Jason showed another style of his arsenal, and he went on the back foot and started to box him and boxed really, really well and just did enough to win. I don't think it was as one-sided as the scorecards showed. I thought the Thai fighter won more rounds. I think he only won 1 or 2 rounds on most of the cards. I think out of 12 rounds, I would have given Jason 8, I thought, of the rounds. I thought the Thai fighter really, really did well and acquitted himself very, very well. Jeezy was tough, though, got work to the body. Well, I think both opponents of the Maloneys got work to the body, and tough guys. And as I said, the guys were frustrated afterwards, but I think Angelo Hyder, Tony Tolles, they would have been rapt that they've beaten these guys, set themselves up for world title shots now. I think Andy said it in the ring afterwards, you win this time you win the fight and look good next time. Just win this one. So look, I think with the right style type of fighters these guys get in with next, I think that's what makes them look good. These guys were spoilers. They were tough, hard, good fighters. So, and Jason went to 25-2 as well. So him and Andrew got identical records, which is amazing. I actually commented to someone at the fight, I think it was Ronnie I was sitting with. I can't remember the times that Andrew and Jason have not fought on the same card. The only time I can remember off the top of my head was on my card when Andrew fought Luis Concepcion. That was in Bendigo back in 2018. Jason had the world title fight lined up with Rodriguez not long after that. But apart from that, I can't really remember when they fought on opposite cards. So, which is obviously why they've got identical records. Base, oh man, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, mate. Do you think Fury really cheated 3 times against Wilder? Or is Wilder just coming up with excuses to cover up his losses, and is there a possibility for a 4th fight if Wilder beats Usyk? Now, I didn't actually see him say that, Base, oh man. He did say that, did he? So, Fury cheated 3 times against Wilder. Well, if that was said by Wilder, he's 100% coming up with excuses because he was beaten by the better guy 3 times. I think he won 3 fights, Fury. Of course, the third one being a little bit controversial with the knockdown, the long count, all the rest of it. I still think he did enough to win that fight. But the next 2, well, gee, how can you cheat when you knocked him out twice? I don't understand that. So, Wilder, look, I'm not his biggest fan, I'll be honest with Wilder, and I'll get to him a little bit later. But look, he was beaten twice by the better fighter. And the second, well, I think the second time was probably more comprehensive than the third time. Fury had to get off the deck and dig deep to get him out. But hey, you knocked him out with a right hand, and He was pushing out Zeds on the canvas. So yeah, no, I don't think Fury cheated 3 times, mate. I think he was just beaten by the better fighter. And Wilder, for me, I've said in the past, not to rubbish the guy because he's obviously held the world title and had 10 defences. I think as far as the quality of heavyweight world champions of the past, I think you'd have to rank with, I think, one of the worst ability-wise, if that makes sense. Full respect to him for winning his belt, making the 10 defences, but they weren't against great opposition. And I just think he got by with this. And that's why Fury pretty much embarrassed him the second 2 times. Because rather than back away from him, Fury had the skill and ability to take him on, and also the chin and the evasiveness to get away from that right hand or take the right hand. And Fury exposed him for what he was. So, getting back to Jason Maloney's fight before we get on to the main event. Shane, what do we got there, mate? And through the first half of the fight, the Ty looked to have decent power. He did. Yep. And that's the thing. You've got to adjust mid-fight. I think on the show last week, Peter and Grant Tazzy Brown both said, especially Peter, said that Jason would wipe this Ty out. It wasn't that good. But look, he was tough and hard, and I was really impressed by the Ty. I thought he was a really good fighter, hence his 56-1 record. Steve, I've also been a fan of both Jason and Andrew since their amateur days. Yeah, well, you would have seen them back in the days, mate, back in the early 2010s. I think they both actually went to the Commonwealth Games in 2010. I think I met them in 2012, and I went to the Nationals with them in 2014. That's obviously when Andrew won the Commonwealth title, and they were just superstars, mate. You could just tell they were pros in the making, and really good pros in the making, and they've proven us right. They just keep getting better and better. 31 years of age, but I think they've still got at least another 4 or 5 good years in them, to be honest. Andy, Tyson Fury rose from the bloody dead. He did. But if you look at that, Andy, I think a lot of people say a devastating punch. How do you get up? If you look at it clearly, he bowled over the right hand, and he sort of, rather than hit him hard with it, he almost rode the punch down. So he didn't cop the full brunt of it. And the left hook was really just the momentum coming through, and he didn't actually land it flush. It looked like when he went down, he was dead. It looked like he'd been hit that hard, he was gone. But if you look at it in slow motion, he doesn't really get hit flush, and you don't see the eyes roll in the head, none of that sort of stuff. He was more like, shit, I'm down. Am I okay? I'll take the time to get up. And I'm really happy the referee didn't stop the fight, because he could have. The way he went down, he could have easily stopped the fight. So, and obviously, the rest is history. And I did actually, I've said on this show before, when I was at the Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota, they actually interviewed the referee of the first Fury and Wilder fight and said, why didn't you stop it? Because he said, I've been around obviously long enough to know you've got to look into the eyes, see the body language. He was clearly okay, just gathering himself, and he got up, which was really good to hear because, as I said, he could have easily stopped the fight and no one really would have argued. Jay Brown, thanks for coming on. Jay, what do you got there? Do you think it's a disadvantage for Jason Maloney not warming up with his coach as Angelo is in Andrew's corner? Yeah, I did actually, when I saw the boys on Thursday and Andy said that they were going to be one after the other, I would have thought the women's would have been in between, but I think the TV wanted them one after the other. I did say, how's that going to go? He said, well, we've been through it before. We're not that fussed about it. I think they did have maybe a 20-minute sort of break in between the fight. And from what I hear, there was members of the team that stayed out the back with Jason. Tony Nobbs was, I think, the main one who's done a lot of work. He does a lot with the boys. And I think he stayed out the back, stayed with Jason, kept him warm, obviously kept him company. It would be a pretty lonely place if the whole team Maloney's out with Andrew and you're sitting there sort of by yourself. But that's what I think happened. Tony Nobbs was in the back, and I think there was a couple others. Tony kept him warm, and then Angelo came in and had about 20 good minutes with him. And Jason wasn't fussed about it. When I asked him about it on Thursday, he wasn't stressed. He's a professional. He's had 27 fights. So he said, well, it is what it is. Yeah. But no, I don't think it was a disadvantage, mate. Paul Haraba, how are you, Paul? I hope you had a good weekend. Yep, great weekend. Jason found another gear on the 5th round, and then it was never in doubt. Yeah. No, you're right, mate. And that's what I think what's so good about the boys. They just keep improving all the time, and they're just, and on top of that, what was good, I haven't seen him for probably about 3 years. And look, they just never change. They're such down-to-earth guys, and I keep pumping them up all the time. But if you look, even when I was talking to them on Sunday at the fights, people coming up for autographs, photos, all that sort of stuff, and it was never an issue for anyone. I think Andrew at one stage had his little fella with him and pretty much taking photos with his little fella and trying to make sure he's not running away at the same time. And I mean, nothing's too hard. And that's what I've always said to anyone about the boys. They are just great guys. This fame or fortune, whatever you want to call it, hasn't affected them at all. And and so if you ever see them, don't be hesitant to go up and say. And Paul, I did see you had some photos with the boys at the hotel, so you'll back me up on this. They are great guys, and nothing is ever too hard. Base, oh man, keep the questions coming, mate. I agree, the toughest opponent he faced to date in his resume is still Luis Ortiz, who got beat by Ruiz, who got beat by Joshua, who got beat by Usyk. Some people say that type of math doesn't work. Nah, it doesn't, mate, because as I say, styles make fights. And look, I don't mean to rubbish Wilder, because he's done all that he's had to, and he's always got that right hand. I just think, as far as just that ability goes, like his chin's up in the air and hands down and doesn't really throw the punches right. I just imagine what he could do with his right hand if he actually threw it correctly. Or the left hook correctly. I know he did a little bit of work on that in camp, but geez, it was horrific. That mate, you got to step outside and you got to throw it properly. Anyway, I don't want to keep on rubbishing Deontay Wilder. He's obviously a former world champion, done a lot more than I have, so good luck to him. But to answer your question there, mate, it's a bit of a merry-go-round with all these opponents, and you can't really judge, fighters against fighters they've beat compared to what other fighters have done against them, because circumstances are always different. So, another question there, Base Oh Man, I love the name. Do you think that Loma or Canelo are exposed for being overrated, as many starting to say about them, or is it just hate? I don't think Loma's been exposed for overrated, has he? I know he obviously lost to Lopez. I think more than anything, people actually came to his defence and said that Lopez actually got lucky and he'd been out the ring for too long, or he was injured, or whatever it was. Because I think he had the shoulder operation just afterwards. I don't think Loma was exposed as being overrated. As I said, I think he was more defended by everyone. Canelo, I think, just gets treated so unfairly. I really do. People go on that he got exposed by Bivol. Well, I take my hat off to Canelo for fighting Bivol. Yeah, he lost. Big deal. He went back to super middleweight and defended his title and beat one of the greatest fighters ever in Triple G Golovkin. So, yeah, look, Canelo, we've talked about on this show before with Tazzy and myself, that Canelo's now got Floyd Mayweather syndrome. Doesn't matter who he fights. Doesn't matter when he fights them. Doesn't matter the result. Doesn't matter anything. They're going to pick holes in it. Too old, too young. Fought him at the wrong time, whatever it might be, record, whatever it might be, he's going to always have this mud slung at him. And that, to me, if anything, is a sign that he's one of the all-time greats, because he's now under that microscope of fighters where they get shit hung on them no matter how they go about it. And I think that's a sign of he's actually made it more than anything. But I think, look, really unfair. I don't think he's been exposed as being overrated at all, mate, because Canelo is not overrated. He's not overrated at all. Some of the greatest fighters in history have had defeats, and it just happens. In this era, though, it's just unfortunate that, again, thanks to Floyd Mayweather, unless you're undefeated, you're a shit fighter. You should retire. You lose one fight and it's all over. Look at George Kambosos on the weekend, which we'll get to in a sec. Lost his second fight to what could be an all-time great. Oh, it's time to retire. Well, why? He's 29 years old. 2 fights ago he beat Teofimo Lopez. So, I just don't get it. Anyway, that's my opinion. Base Oh Man, neither one of them is overrated, and I don't think Canelo probably cops it a little bit, but definitely not Loma. All right, Shane, I love the comments. Keep them coming, guys. Angelo was really getting stuck in Andy about sticking to the fight play. Well, if you've ever been close to the corner when Angelo Hyde is involved, you better stay clear, because he lets rip. Verbally, I'm talking about. If you're doing the right thing, and you don't even have to be the fighter to get a serve. I know some of the cornermen have had plenty of serves over the journey. Don't worry about that. Look, that's Angelo Hyder. Some trainers have a different way of going about it. The boys absolutely love and admire Angelo Hyder. I think the world of him. I think he's the best trainer in the world. Now, I know every fighter thinks their trainer's the best in the world, which is why they're with him. But I think he's such a really, really, really good coach. He really is, or trainer, whatever you want, a mentor. But watching him in the gym with the boys, he'll yell at them in the gym as well. If they stray from what he's trying to teach them or show them, whatever it might be, he'll yell at them in front of everyone. He doesn't care. But the boys know that, and they put their head down. Probably wouldn't be my way of going about it, but everyone's different. Andy and Jason obviously respond to it well. But as I said, if you're in the vicinity of Angelo and things aren't going the right way, then be prepared for a serve. And that, as I said, that's not just fighters, that's the cornerman, the cut man, the stool guy, whoever, that get in the ice. If there's too much ice in the bucket, or it's, there's not enough in there, or the stool's not in fast enough, be prepared. But having said that, great coach. Obviously, he's had the background with Danny Green. He also was with Jeff Fennick back in the day, and the Johnny Lewis, of course, and now with the Maloney boys. Chris John, of course, as well. So he knows his boxing, and he is a very, very good coach, and he's obviously getting as much out of the boys as they can at the moment because, it's amazing how they keep improving all the time. But thanks, Shane. Yeah, I didn't say it, of course, because I was there, but that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Yes, Andy, congrats to all the winners over the weekend. Yeah, there's plenty of them. Well, we're still going. We've got a few to get through there. We'll get to the main event in a sec. I'll get a couple of comments there, and then we'll get into the main event. So both Maloneys will be champs again. Yeah, look, great timing, Andy, because, look, we all saw what Inouye, or Inoue, however you want to pronounce it, did to Jason. I think he did an awesome job to take it to Inoue and last 7 rounds or whatever it was. And Inoue is just a beast, probably top 3 or 3 pound for pound in the world. And I just full props to Jason for taking that fight. I remember going to the Superfly tournament back in 2017 with the boys, and Inoue was there. I think his brother might have fought on the card. And Inoue was there, and he was getting mobbed. And I remember both boys saying, they were such admirers of him. They're both actually fans of Inoue. Oh, there's Inoue, and what a great fighter he is. Little did they think that, Jason would be fighting him, 4 years later, but he did. Now that he's moving up, obviously, I'm getting off track there, sorry. When he fights Butler, I think he'll get past that one pretty easily. He'll be undisputed. There's talk that he'll go up. Jason's probably got the WBC. I think that's the one he's going for. There's also the WBO. He's ranked number 1, so he'll have a couple of different options to fight for the world title, but as I said, I think he's going to go for the WBC, which I think would be great for him. That WBC belt, to me, is still number 1, so I hope he gets that, and it's winnable. So I've got no doubt he's primed. He's had 2 shots at it now. Should have beat Rodriguez, but again, that was 4 years ago. A lot greener than what he is now. I think that was his first pro fight overseas at the time as well. So I think he's going to go on to bigger, better things. I think he's 100% ready right now. They're at the peak. I've got no doubt. And Andy, of course, well, he's got a few different options. Super flyweights are a very, very tough division, though. Of course, we've got Estrada and Chocolatito in December. That'll be a ripper as well. Then you throw in there, he was just trying to think. So Estrada, there's Quadros. I think he's still around. Of course, who was it? The brother of Franco Rodriguez. Rodriguez as well. So there's plenty of good junior bantamweights or super flyweights out there. So look, they've both got the work cut out, don't get me wrong, but they are primed here and now to fight for and win world titles. Now that's what I like about fighting these guys who are actually coming up against now, because it's not a matter of fighting for world titles. You've got to be in a position to win. And that's what I like about throwing them in with these top guys. I think Angelo, Tony, and Top Rank, of course, are saying, well, it's one thing again to be in a position to fight for it, which a lot of fighters do these days, but we want to win it. And I think, as I said, they are red hot to go. Steve, yep, sorry, I missed your comment on Brock Jarvis. Can he come back? We'll get to that in a sec, Steve. I'm going to cover that in detail after the Kambosos fight. Wow, how was that? Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing your responses about that, guys, because that was hard in mouth stuff. That was same thing with Joshua. They're starting to call him overrated too after his double losses. Base man. Now, I think, and this is not to Joshua, it's not Joshua's fault, of course. I think he was overrated. I hate to say it, and I think Usyk sort of exposed him a little bit for being overrated. But look, he won the world title. He fought Klitschko and White and all of them. He fought Parker. Fought so many guys over the journey. Excuse me. And did what he had to do. I'm not quite sure how many defences that he had, but I think Usyk just exposed him a little bit. And so did Ruiz, just have been a little bit one-dimensional. So I'm not going to say he's overrated. I just don't think he's maybe as good as everyone thought he was, which is probably the definition of overrated, isn't it? But look, end of the day, as I said, he's fought everyone they put in front of him, matched him really, really well. He's made probably hundreds of millions of dollars, so good luck to him. But I think they've got to start matching him a little bit carefully if they want to get his brand back. And I wanted to see him fight Fury, but I'm not that stressed that he wasn't. I wouldn't mind him. There's talk about him coming to Australia and doing the world tour, all that sort of stuff. So we'll wait and see. But he needs a couple of wins. And I like the idea of Eddie Hearn putting in really quick, bang bang, put him in with one in December, another one in March, and let's get the AJ Express going again. Because he needs to build his brand back up. Because the other thing is too with him, I think he's very, very mentally sort of driven. He's mentally fragile, if you will. I think he's one of those guys that really has to believe in himself. And I think the Ruiz fight threw some doubts into me, obviously, because even though he won the rematch, it wasn't the same AJ. He did what he had to do, of course. But the Usyk fight, I think he looked... the first one, look, I think he just maybe took Usyk for granted. I don't know. Usyk's a great fighter, of course, got the job done. But just thinking the rematch, Joshua, for me... He tried his best, of course. I just don't think he was in the same mental frame of mind that we'd seen him in the past. That's why he needs a couple of wins. So, anyway, we'll see what happens there. Paul, 100% my wife, and I think the Maloney boys are a class act, the most humble blokes going around. Credit to them, gentlemen. Yeah, they are, mate. Just great guys, as I said earlier. Really, really good guys. Stephen, I'm with you on Canelo. Big fan. Yep, we love Canelo. One of the greatest fighters, I think, of all time. I still think Julio Cesar Chavez is the best Mexican fighter of all time. You could probably make an argument for some of the others, maybe Marquez or Sanchez or whoever it might, Pereira, whoever. But for me, Chavez is still number one, but I've got Canelo number two. Thanks, Baso, man. Fair assessments, mate. Just my opinion. That's what's great about these shows. We can discuss things and give opinions without... abusing each other and telling each other we're all full of shit. It's just opinions. Andy, Wilder, awkward, but has improved under Malik Scott than under J. Diaz. Is that how you pronounce it? We just didn't get to see because you got Helenius out there early. Yeah. Again, we'll get to that in a sec. He has improved. He's awkward. Look, yeah, it's probably a good point, Andy, because, look, at the end of the day, you're either probably naturally talented or you're not. The trick is obviously getting as much out of your ability that you've been given that you can. And I think Wilder has definitely gotten the most out of himself because I think ability-wise, he hasn't been blessed with a lot, I should say, but he has been blessed with this, and sometimes that's all it takes. But he has improved, and I think he is, at least he's trying to improve himself. As I said before, he's trying to throw the left hook a little bit more, trying to, different things in training with Malik Scott, but, look, he's at least trying to improve himself, and that's all he can do, which is good. So I don't want to, be Wilder bashing, but I just think he's, as I said, he's got the best out of himself. But Helenius, geez, what an effort, jeez. Anyway, we'll get to that. Base man again. I agree about Canelo boxing and analytics. I'm assuming that says like Teddy Atlas for being too critical on Canelo. Well, Teddy Atlas can just shut up. I'm sick of him. I really am. For someone that did nothing in the boxing ring, it's easy to be outside sort of throwing shit at all these great fighters when you're an analyst. I know he used to train Tyson. He's had all these other fighters. I understand that. I just think you can get your point across without being a dick, and I just think he's a dick. And it goes back to when Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao. Jeff Horn's crowning moment. It was a close fight. Could have gone either way. It went Jeff Horn's way, which was great. But for Teddy Atlas, for his first interview, to get out the ring, you can imagine it. Getting out the ring, you've got the belt. You've just beaten one of the all-time greats of all time in a massive upset. You've got the world title belt, and you get out and you run into a peanut like Teddy Atlas, who then says, "You didn't win the fight. You didn't win the fight. I thought Pacquiao won." Well, what's Jeff Horn supposed to say? So that was the start of it for me. But since then, he's so critical of everyone else in the sport. Mate, for me, your credibility was gone long ago, so I don't agree with what he has to say at all, especially when it comes to criticising a fighter like Canelo. So Eddie, what's his name? Teddy Atlas, shut up. Just my opinion, of course. Please like and subscribe. Yes, keep it coming. Like and subscribe. We're almost at 500 subscribers, so let's go. And then, of course, we'll go for 1,000 after that. AJ is a little clunky, but an awesome fighter. Unifies 3 belts. Yep, he is, mate. Just underestimated Ruiz, hand speed, and Usyk argue with the number one pound for pound today. Yeah, look, he's run into Look, Ruiz was a late replacement, so you can forgive him for that. It's not the first time that's happened, and it won't be the last. So I don't sort of do that. And look, when he fought him in the desert in Abu Dhabi or whatever it was, or Dubai, wherever they fought the second time, look, I think maybe it was one of those cases. Let's just get the win, box, be smart, just get the belts back and forget about this guy. So you can forgive that one. Usyk, as I said before, is one of the best in the world at the moment, and arguably number one. So, but that's why I'm just really adamant that he just needs a couple of wins. Forget fighting any big punches or anyone that's going to put a lot of pressure on him. He needs a couple of tomato cans, as they say. Just knock him over and get the confidence back, get a little bit of his brand recognition back, and then aim for the others. I get asked, will the Tyson Fury fight happen? I'm not quite sure. Too much money, of course, to maybe not happen, but, geez, I think Tyson Fury is trying everything he possibly can to not fight him. Not to say he doesn't think he can beat him, but geez, he's making it hard. He's making it really hard. Beso, man, I agree. Joshua's resume is definitely better than Wilder, to say the least. Yeah, of course it is, mate. 100% more better. Wilder's had the probably more highlight reel knockouts, but you got to remember too. At one stage, Joshua was bowling people over left, right, and centre as well. Of course, his competition level probably rose, which is why he's come back to the pack a little bit, but. And Joshua, look, what a fight that would be, Joshua and Wilder. And there's talk about it already, so that would be a ripper. Who would win that one? I think if it would come down to pure boxing skills, Joshua wins easy. But again, it could be the last 10 seconds of the last round. There's Wilder's right hand. It's always going to be there. For me, that's always going to be the white elephant in the fight, is when's he going to land it. Because of Joshua, I think all it's going to take is that one right hand. It could be all over. So that's what's so fascinating about it. Shane, Teddy lost me over the Horn episode. Thanks, mate. He certainly did. As I said just before, what a tool. What a tool. And to see him carry on. And look, he's not the only one that carries on there. I don't really get into that Stephen A. Smith on ESPN either. And I don't mind Max Kellerman. He's okay, I suppose. What's that other guy on ESPN? Is it Skip someone? He's full of shit as well, I think. Too many of these guys who've never been in the ring or done anything in boxing having too much to say. If Roy Jones Jr. gets on there, or when George Foreman was on there, or Antonio Tarver, you want to talk, hey, then I'm going to listen to what you have to say. Not Teddy Atlas or friggin' Stephen A. Smith. Anyway, enough of that. Base Oman, and again, do you think Ruiz and Canelo are being trashed for underperforming in the recent fights, or do they do enough to earn respect for the wins? Well, I think they did enough to earn respect. Unfortunately for Ruiz, when he fought the rematch, didn't really come to fight in the second one. He came in a little bit overweight, not in great condition. So I can probably see why he's probably lost a lot of goodwill with the fans. It looked good in his last fight, of course, so he's obviously on the way back. And just talked that he might fight Wilder next. But yeah, I don't think Ruiz was trashed for his recent fight, was he? I thought he actually got a few pats on the back for that one over Ortiz. Canelo definitely, as I said, to Mayweather syndrome. Doesn't matter who he beats. He could fight Benavidez and beat him, and they'll still find a way to beat him. Then they'll say, well, Benavidez, he hadn't had enough experience and hadn't fought enough elite fighters, so Canelo should have beaten him. So he can't win. But I think Canelo's getting trashed no matter what he does, base Oman. But as far as respect goes, you can't help but respect both guys, especially Canelo. Yep, Stephen. Yes, this is about Teddy Atlas. Trained Tyson, but he never taught Tyson to box. No, he didn't. And was it Teddy Atlas that actually put the gun in Tyson's face over something as well? Like, come on, mate. You probably need a gun with Tyson back then to get through to him. But yeah, look, as I said, there's too many people like that in this sport, and I don't listen to the opinions of people that have never really gone in there and done it, or at least been at some sort of elite level. All right, let's get into it, mate. Expert limit. I think that's how you pronounce it. Thoughts on Haney Cambosis 2. All right, so I've been saying I'm going to get onto it for about the last half an hour. Let's get into it. All right, first of all, congratulations to Devin Haney. He fought a great fight. The score lines, what was it, 119, 109, 118, 110 times 2. Look, I thought George would say in the lead up to it he was going to bring something different to the fight, and he did. Everyone was wondering what it was going to be. I was a little bit curious to see what he would do differently. Just looking at... hang on, just as we're going there, guys, I'll just get to a couple of questions before I lose them. Quick one from Paul. Did you speak to any followers whilst you're at the event to speak on what the next movements are? No, I didn't actually, Paul. I spoke to, obviously, the twins, and I had to get out of there. I had stuff to do. I've had some work to do at home, so I got out of there, but... who else was on there? I did. I said before, I spoke to Steve Della and Luke Melton about Django, so he's got some big things. But that was about it, mate. Hey, before I actually move on, before we get on to the main event again, John Manu, I've got to give him a shout out. I didn't actually put him on there. He was a swing bout. I actually hung around to watch John Manu. He fought Adrian Sosa. John Manu was 6-0-1. He fought Adrian Sosa, who was 12-0. Big, supposedly the big name from America, come over to fight John Manu. I remember when I saw that matchup thinking, geez, I hope they haven't come over expecting an easy fight on John Manu, because John Manu's a really, really good young fighter. Just come back from Canada and had a win over there. And John Manu, geez, it was a good fight. It was a tough fight. At the end of it, Adrian Sosa, he was busted up, his nose, his eyes. And, real big shout out to John Manu. I thought he fought really, really well. And congratulations, because big things on the horizon for him. I hope he gets signed by either one of these international guys or a No Limit or DNL or one of those guys, because the kid can fight. I think he's got a lot of potential. So, good on John Manu. All right, so with the main event, as I said, George came out. You could see straight away come out in the southpaw stance. That was his probably the big move. I was actually sceptical in the lead up to it about his team. None of them had ever actually been in the ring and had a fight, as far as I know. His dad, Jim, Steve Backus, I think his trainer's name, big bodybuilder type of guy, and I can't remember who else was. None of them had a fight from my knowledge. So that's a hard one. But I did applaud the fact they tried something a little bit different. Come out in the southpaw stance, he was switching from left to right. The problem with it is that Skip Bayless is the guy too. Thanks, Andy. Yep, another wanker. Max Kellerman, yep, he's the only one I respect as well. Look, I thought George might have got the first round. Maybe, he landed a couple at the end of it. It could have been an even round, or I don't like even rounds, I will say. But I just thought maybe George, with his effort, might have just got the first round. But sadly, that was it until the later stages in the fight. Devin Haney, you could see that with George switching from left to southpaw to orthodox, and he was moving the head a lot. You see Devin Haney wasn't rattled at all. He wasn't put off his game. He was ready for anything. And all he did was hold his shape, use his jab, get his range. He did cop a burst from his dad after the first round, and then he just went into that mode of the first fight. Excuse me. And then really, I'd like to break each round down, but again, like the first fight, even though the rounds I thought were a lot closer, I still think Devin Haney was winning round after round after round. And then I think George had a really good ninth round, got the crowd on the feet a little bit, and the atmosphere was awesome when he started to do that. But then in the 10th round, I think he punched himself out a little bit in that 9th round, and I thought, actually, I said to Ronnie sitting beside me, I said, I think this is it. I think he's going to stop him this round. He started to land the right hand, so a left hook I think got through as well, and started to back George up, and I thought this is going to be it. George has had he's put everything into that 9th round, didn't get it. Now Haney's going to step it up and stop him. But to George's credit, like he did with Lopez, dug in, got through the last 2 rounds. But I think George took 1, 2, maybe 3, and that's about it. Just an absolute masterclass from Devin Haney. Wouldn't blow out a candle after the fight. Just did an excellent job. And but what I will say about George, he's got nothing to be ashamed about, no doubts in his head about anything. He fought the absolute best fight that he could on the day. He got himself in the condition. I think he was in the right frame mentally, like he was in the Lopez fight as well. I think he brought all that to the table. Unfortunately, he just came up against a better fighter on the day in Devin Haney. And unfortunately, probably wouldn't matter whether they fought 10 times. Haney's going to beat him every single time. He's just that type of guy. And I know it was easy for everyone on the outside to say, well, just get closer and bowl in the right hand and rough him up and do this. That's easier said than done, guys. At that level, that you just can't do that type of thing. And I thought George did extremely well. And that's why I think he was so content after the fight, because I think he knew in his heart that he'd put everything into it. The tank was empty. He couldn't have done anything more to win the fight. And Devin Haney was just too good on the day. So hats off to Devin Haney. Great fighter. Definitely should be in the top 10, in my opinion, in the pound-for-pound rankings. But for George Kambosos, look, full respect to him. I'm really glad that he adopted the persona that he did for this fight. I thought the first fight, he didn't do himself any favours. He probably lost a lot of support because of it. But I really love the fact he went back to his roots, cut his team back, cut back the flash suits and all the rest of it. He was just George Kambosos again. ferocious, as he said. The Emperor was gone, ferocious was back. And, I just thought he fought a great fight. And, as I said, full respect to George. And, look, this bullshit about him now, well, he should retire. Now, come on, guys. He's got plenty of big fights out there left in him, if you ask me. Now, is he at that really top elite level? In my opinion, no. That doesn't matter. He's a name of the sport. He hasn't been knocked around. He hasn't been knocked out. He hasn't been really beaten up by anyone. Lopez fight, of course, was tough, but the Haney one, he was more outboxed rather than, beaten up. So he's got Shakur Stevenson coming up. I'm not saying by any stretch here he's going to beat Shakur Stevenson, but he's got Shakur Stevenson coming up. He's going to want a name when he gets to a beatable name at lightweight. There's a $2 or $3 million payday right there for George Kambosos if he wants it. He's got Lomachenko moving up, coming back. Maybe he wants a name if Haney decides to either move up or fight someone else, whatever it might be. He's got Lomachenko there. He's got Ryan Garcia if he wants to come back to lightweight. Gervonta Davis, of course, Tank Davis. Lots of those guys, not to mention all those up-and-comers, they're going to want to fight George Kambosos. He's still a big name in the sport, no matter what happens. So he's got those fights out there if he wants them. That's the big question mark. Does he want those big fights? Because those guys out there are going to want to fight him to have his name on the resume. So, and who knows? He might get a shot at a vacant title. It remains to be seen what Haney does if he moves up. But there's plenty. The lightweight division is the hottest division in boxing at the moment. So he's got plenty of good fights out there to go through if he wants. So let's just see what happens. But he's 29 years old. He's got plenty of fights left in him. I think Tank still beats Haney, but I'd love to see Haney versus opponents like Lomachenko, Rowley, Ryan Garcia, Shakur Stevenson. Didn't put Rowley Romero in there. He'd be a really good fight for George as well, I think. So there's plenty of good fights there for him. Look, I'm not in the camp. I will say, I'm not sure your first name there, Expert Limit, but I'm not quite sure that Tank beats Haney. I really don't. I think, look, I love Tank. I think he's a great fighter. I think Haney's got the style to beat him. Again, we go back to styles makes fights. I really think that Haney's got the ability to beat any of these guys. I think if any of them, the only one I think that's got a really good chance because of styles is Lomachenko. I think he's the one I'd probably back to beat Haney again, just because of the styles. I think he's lightning quick. He's in and out. He can move laterally. He can do a lot of different things, Lomachenko, and that's why I think he gives Haney troubles. He can get in there like a flash. Bang, he's inside. He can work and then he'll be off, and Haney might not be able to get himself set. But I think Haney versus Rowley, I think he beats him easily. I think he beats Ryan Garcia. Shakur Stevenson, an interesting one. They're almost a mirror of each other, aren't they? So that could be... But will it be another Crawford-Spence situation? I know both of them are very young, so hopefully that's not the case. But I hope it's not one of these things about they're both so good that they don't really want to fight each other in case. So, but that's the fight I would love to see, Haney and Shakur Stevenson. But when will it happen? Who knows? But yeah, mate, to answer your question, no, I think Haney beats Tank. Just my opinion. What do we got there? Another one from Expert there. Feel like Kambosos could have dropped Haney in the late rounds when Haney wasn't defensive, or was defensive if George only let his hands go. He was thinking too much. I think he was a little bit fatigued too, mate. And he'd been cut. I think he had the cut on his head too. I don't know if you saw it. Actually, it looked like he had a little bit of meat hanging out of his cut. And on top of the Shanika Johnson one, that's probably the last thing we needed. But, look, I'm not quite sure about that, mate. I think George, by the 10th round, had pretty much run out of fuel. I think he was done. Tough as nails, though. But no, I don't. I think Haney was way too slick and defensive-minded for George to get near him. He had his moments, George did, but I don't think Haney at any time was under any pressure or any, being hurt at any stage. So... I don't think Kambosos could have dropped Haney. No, that's just, again, my opinion. Haney was defensive the whole fight. Yeah, well, look, he had to do what he had to do, Paul. Look, Mayweather did it every single fight he had. And look, I will give Haney a little bit of credit here. If you go back and watch the fight, there were times during the fight he was backing George up. He took centre ring. It wasn't just late. Earlier in the fight as well, Haney took centre ring. Like Mayweather had done in the past before. I know he's been always seen as a defensive fighter and runs, but you look at a lot of his fights too, he stands in the pocket and forces the action. I think Haney, unlike the first fight where he was totally on the back foot, I actually thought, as I said, he pushed the fight a lot more this time and put it on George, especially in that 10th round when he had him backing up. But I think Haney was a lot more offensive this time, and I must admit, I thought it would be like it was a shutout decision, or he might get him out of there in the later rounds, but credit again to George. James Daly, thanks James. Good sportsmanship by both post-fight. Haney thanked George for opportunities. Yeah, if you didn't see that, he actually, I can't remember what he said, but along the lines of, he gave him the opportunities and he wouldn't have what he had without George. Something along those lines. And it was really good to see the whole, the dads and all that in there as well. And look, to be honest with you, Haney's team were the ones really pushing the narrative this time about the spite. It wasn't, apart from the Wayne, of course. It was George's team who were more sort of laid back and everything, especially with his dad. I think he got a little bit excited in the first fight. But yeah, look, when it's all over, the warriors, the sportsmen, the family men. So I thought it was great that they did that afterwards, and they can be friends going forward. There's no way they'll ever fight each other again, so why not be friends? And who knows? They might use each other for sparring. I wouldn't think George would use Haney as a sparring partner, but Haney might use George down the track. Who knows? But at least they've got the bad blood out the way, and it was really good to see. Really good to see. Props to Cambo. He made adjustments, really tried hard, but Haney just that good. Yeah, that's what I said before, mate. He was just too good. George couldn't have done anything different, in my opinion. He tried his heart out. He kept pushing. He's busted up. He had cuts. Hurt a couple of times. But the one thing I will say, I was surprised that when Devin Haney started to land those right hands and a few left hooks in there. George, he might have wobbled a couple of times, but he took Haney's punches really, really, really well, and that might be a little bit of a worry for Haney going forward because he's not a big puncher, and he fights the Tank Davises or even Ramiro's of the world, those other big punchers, Garcias. Has he got the power to do the damage on him? I suppose we'll see. Paul again. Sorry I missed some of these comments, guys. I think Kambosos was attempting peekaboo, but his team didn't know how to exercise the skill to master it properly. In my opinion, Kambosos tried even with the kitchen sink. I think they had the kitchen sink in the corner. They were going to throw it in. But, I'm not sure it was trying the peekaboo. I think it was more trying to confuse him to get inside a little bit quicker and easier by switching to southpaw and then sort of rushing in. The problem with plans like that, it's good for a few rounds, but when fatigue starts to set in and the pace of the fight starts to set in, it's really hard to maintain. And that's why as the fight went on, you saw probably George switch a lot less. Probably just didn't have the the energy to keep it going, especially because Devin Haney caught on to the game plan really early on and adjusted really well to George's game plan. So, but I've said it numerous times. I was really surprised that George didn't bring in a boxing person, a really well credentialed boxing coach to help with the camp. It's okay to have Steve Backus in there and his dad and a couple of other guys to be there. And for whatever reason the others went, there's always two sides of why they went. Why they wouldn't have brought in a really good trainer from overseas. Maybe let Steve Backus have a bit of say in a few things. But to see him as the lead trainer really surprised me. I don't think he gave George the ultimate chance to win. As I said, to maybe bring in an overseas trainer as a consultant to help out with some certain things, strategy, show George a few different things. I understand they wanted to go back to the roots and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, you've got to fight to win. It's one thing to rid yourself of all the team out there, but I just think I was surprised, as I said, he just didn't bring in another well-credentialed boxing coach. Props to both Dev and George. Rematch was better than first. Yep, it was. Paul, definitely better fight. Second time around, it was a ripper fight. It really was. The atmosphere made it too, I thought. And George let it all hang out. He let a few bombs go. Devin Haney let a few bombs go. I just thought it was great. I really did. Beso, man, when fighters claim they won after a clear loss, should it be called confidence or delusional? Mate, I love these questions you got going there. Either way, they risk their lives in there for entertainment, like Wilder says. You're right, mate. And that's why I hate reading a lot of the comments after some of the fights on Facebook or Instagram, wherever it is, YouTube, whatever it might be. But guys that just think these, and that's what I think Wilder was saying in the press conference as well. You got a little bit teary, of course. These guys are athletes, family men, all the rest of it. Businessmen as well. So you just got to remember they're human beings. And the rest of your question there, mate. When fighters claim they won after a clear loss, should it be called confidence or delusional? Or delusional most of the time. I think, look, a lot of these guys, you've got to remember, boxers are very, very egotistical. Whether it be MMA or boxing or whatever it might be, we're pumped up, we're patted on the back, told how great we are. probably beaten up on sparring partners in training and got all the social media followings and all the rest of it. We're pumped up as being the man or woman, whatever it might be. And when these fighters get beat, it's a massive blow to their ego. It really is. And I don't know whether they're afraid of what people are going to think of them or what they're going to think of themselves. It's just human nature for them in their psyche to claim they lost. Claim they won, even though it was a clear loss. And that's what I loved about George, by the way, because he said he didn't win the fight. He said he lost the fight. But yes, delusional. Confidence, no. Delusional, yes. Yeah. You need that confidence in your camp, don't get me wrong, and to get to where you need to get to. But I love it when a fighter gets beaten and they say, look, tonight I was just beaten by a better guy. I think they get a lot more respect that way. But to answer your question, Beso man, yeah, definitely delusional when they say that they won a fight when they clearly lost the fight. Dev might move up, so belts might go up for grabs again. Yeah, there's talk about that. And I think I did hear after the fight that maybe he said that this might have been his last fight at lightweight. Maybe depends on maybe whether it's a Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson. I think Shakur Stevenson will probably come up for a year or so and then want to maybe get 2 or 3 fights under his belt. But whether the Lomachenko fight happens, some good fights at super lightweight now. There's Garcia there and maybe Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez. So there's some plenty of good fights up there for him. Maybe Tank Davis goes to welterweight, stays there. So, but if it does happen, there's going to be some ripper fights for vacant titles, I would think. You were right about George. Still has a lot to offer. Yep, I think he's got a lot to offer, Steve, 100%. Shane, Haney versus Stevenson got very interesting for mine. There might be just a little bit of room up the middle for the backhand left from Stevenson. Be a good fight. Be a ripper fight. Be a very tactical fight. I don't think it'd be overly exciting, but for the boxing purists, it'd be gold. It'd be just one great boxer against another great. Well, I won't say great. Very, very good boxer versus another very, very good elite boxer. It would be great. But I think it's only one of the ones that real hardcore boxing fans would relish. Fight the casuals out there would probably go, well, no, what a rip off. But I think it'd be awesome. Saw Dev say Tank beat him when Dev was 14. Okay, I didn't know that. Sparring years later, he made Tank quit apparently, so Dev would take that fight there. Yeah, I did hear that as well, Andy. That that when they sparred, that Tank quit. So that's an interesting one. Yeah, as I said, mate, just a gut feel. I think Devin wins that fight against Tank. I just think the style was he would have the right style to stay away from Tank's power. Because Tank can get a little bit lazy sometimes in there. He can give a few rounds away, and obviously he's got the power to make up for it. But you wouldn't want to be giving many rounds away if you're him fighting against Devin Haney. Before you know it, you're 6 rounds down, and then Devin's, he gets into the fight, gets his range, timing, and everything else, and he's very, very hard to catch. So, yeah, it's been an interesting one. Expert limit. Who do you think Tank should fight next? Would you be interested in seeing a rematch with Ramiro? No, I would not. Since he's doing fairly good, winning rounds. Yeah, was he doing that well, mate? I suppose he was. I think Tank was just in second gear that whole time. I think Ramiro was awkward. He landed a few. I just think Davis was pretty much taking his time. Not rushing it. I don't think in any stage was Ramiro actually really in a chance to win the fight. Just my opinion. And then when Tank stepped it up, it was all over. So that would be a tough sell. Who should he fight next? Well, obviously Ryan Garcia would be great, but geez, wouldn't Teofimo Lopez be awesome? It might even be for a vacant title. Who knows? If Josh Taylor vacates the titles, or I think he's fighting Cuttrell again, I think, but there are a couple of vacant titles. Geez, wouldn't that be awesome if Tank and Lopez fought? That would be an absolute bloody barn burner, that would. So we'll see. But Ramiro, no, that's gone. I think Ramiro's a very, very average fighter. Yeah, he gets a bit of attention because of all the shit that he talks. But, as far as being a legitimate world-class fighter, I can't see it. I can't see it. Jay Brown. Luda Bella mentioned they'll be cautious about who they match George with next. I don't think a Tank Loma Cruz will be his next fight. No, and it shouldn't be either. Maybe a Rolly or Diaz at best, I'd say for now. I don't think it will be either, Jay. I don't think it'll be any of those top guys. It might be someone maybe top 15. But look, if anyone deserves a step down in class, it's George Kambosos. The fight Lopez and back-to-back with Haney. You've also got to be careful that obviously you don't fight someone that's not good at all, and then you drop further down the ratings and someone goes past you. So, yeah, look, I think George, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. There's plenty of guys out there. I don't think any of those guys are a really good idea, even Rolly Romero, because he can still punch. I think George needs just a bit like Anthony Joshua. He needs someone that's not a big puncher, durable, known, good reputation, good record, maybe a former world champion that might be, past a little bit. Who knows? But there's lots of different ones. But I think George needs to step down and, don't. He said before he's not going to go back to domestic level, and I don't think he will. I think if it was ever the case, he would quit. He would be out. He would be out of the sport to come back domestically. Maybe go over to the States, get the pressure off you, fight on an undercard of one of those guys over there, or have a standalone fight on a small card. Fight someone just to get yourself back in the winning circle, and then see what happens after that. Riley versus George would be a good one. I'd pay money. So yeah, it would be an entertaining fight, mate. It would be a really, really good fight. But as I said, I just don't think that's next for George. That would be entertaining. Be a few words said, I would say, and maybe a bit of argy-bargy at press conferences and weigh-ins and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't think not next. James, idea, boxers get danger money, not so much for journeyman though. So is that an idea you're saying? Boxers get danger money? Well, you need journeymen out there. You need them. Every country or division, whatever, needs journeymen. You just, they're very, very vital. As long as they're not getting knocked around, I'm all for the journeymen out there. As long as they're not getting knocked out or hurt, you need them. But danger money, well, I think they all get pretty well paid these days, mate. I think so. You got another comment there. Boxers get good danger money, not so much. Sorry. Okay, so boxers get good danger money. Yes, they do. Not so much for journeymen. Yeah, but sometimes they do, James. It might surprise you, but sometimes a journeyman gets paid more than the up-and-comer. Not so much when they're the champion, of course. But sometimes, let's just say, I don't know, I'm picking, let's say it's Nikita Zoo. I'm just picking a name. This is in Australia, of course. Nikita Zoo fights someone. The opposition or the opponent might well get paid more money than what Nikita Zoo gets paid. And not just Nikita, it could be just the house fighter. The opponent gets paid more than him because they need to pay them more just to get them there. They know they're the B-side. They know they're getting bought in to lose. They know there's probably not real chance they're going to win, so they're going to want to get paid for it. And as the prospects get better and better and more well known, well, it's harder to match. And you don't want to throw them straight in with the elite because they might be 10-0, 12-0, not quite ready for the upper echelon of competition, but they've outgrown sort of this level, that sort of 6, 7, 8 fight mark. So you're in between there. So they've got to pay these guys top money to get them in the ring. And good on them. So, there are professional journeymen out there. They train minimally. They'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, as long as the money's right, and you need them. As long as I said, they're not getting hurt and knocked around. Plenty of them out there that are professional journeymen. Like there are professional sparring partners. Same thing. So, but the good fighters, look, they end up making the good money along the line somewhere. All right, Stephen Ladd again. Did Devon call out Loma on the weekend? I think he sort of said that he'd like him next. I don't think he called him out as such, but he said he's the type of guy. I think for Devon, that's the only fight that's going to keep him at lightweight at the moment. And I think if he beats Loma, he would definitely move up to super lightweight, and even if he loses. Shakur Stevenson, I just got a gut feel that he's at least 12 months away. I'm not sure Devon Haney's going to want to wait a year. I think he's going to want to fight maybe mid or sort of May, June next year. Hopefully the Lomachenko fight comes off, and then he'll want to move up. That's just my opinion again. You're right, but I think if Riley gets a real team, he could definitely get to that level. But with his current coach, Bullet, he won't be getting better anytime soon. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure whether he leaves his current coach, to be honest, mate. I can't see it. Look, you never know. But I did see him at the Box Expo in Vegas. They all seem still pretty friendly with each other. He was pretty confident in himself. But look, I think Rolly Romero will continue to get big fights, get well paid. Well, when I say big fights, fighting the bigger guys, just because of his personality, he talks it up. He'll always be well. And look, he obviously plays it up as well. He knows what gets him the paycheck. So, good on him in that regard. At the end of the day, it's a business. But as far as being a real elite fighter, I'm sorry, man, I don't share your optimism there. I just don't think he's an elite fighter. I think he fights the elite guys, but I don't think he's actually an elite fighter. But we'll see. Do you think Ryan is really serious about fighting Tank, or is he just clout chasing to earn more followers on social media by using Tank's name for extra fame. Yeah, a bit of that, I reckon, mate. Baso man again. I think, who knows with these guys? Ryan Garcia, he's almost, well, he is. He's sort of deemed as the Instagram world champion, isn't he? And look, my biggest thing with it is when you've got someone that's probably more concerned about Instagram followers than, getting a belt around your waist. There's major issues with that with me. I mean, look, he's done a great job at that Box Expo we went to in Vegas a couple of months ago, or last month, whatever it was. He had nearly the biggest line there, waiting for him. Hundreds of people all crammed in, and they were waiting for probably 2 hours to get an autograph from him or a photo, whatever it might be. So he's extremely popular. But is he serious about really getting those big... Like, is he really serious about fighting Tank or Teofimo? I'm not quite sure. He definitely talks a big game. I think Tank and Teofimo both beat him, if I'm being honest. For me, the whole... Look, he can punch, but I can just see when he especially when he hooks, that chin's way up in the air, or I can just see him getting chin big time at some stage. And it happened when he fought Luke Campbell. And Luke Campbell, Olympic gold medalist, you've got to give him his due, I suppose. But as a pro, hasn't really set the world on fire. He dropped, and he's not a big puncher either. And he dropped Garcia, not because he's a big puncher, but because he's got good timing. And Garcia's chin's way up in the air. So I don't know. I just think if Tank or Lopez hit him with a big shot when he's got the chin in the air, she's all over. So. All right, what do we got there? This is Andy. Liam Parra surely gets your shot at Josh Taylor, Catterall rematch winner ASAP. No, people sleeping on progress. He knows slouch either. No, he's not, mate. Good call. Look, we'll get into that card now, I think. I'll just see if we've got any questions. Hang on, one more before we get on to Parra and Jarvis. If Ryan is serious, I don't see him beating Tank. I don't either. He needs to get a few more fights on his belt to have a bigger chance against Tank. The only way I see him beating Tank is in the early rounds. Is that because of his power, I'm assuming there? Yeah, and he's a slow starter. Yeah. I could see Garcia dropping Tank early, to be honest, as in a shock knockdown. I think Tank's tough enough and durable enough he'd get up and go on to win the fight. But I'm with you. That's probably Garcia's only shot. But I can't see him knocking Davis out. I really can't, even early. He might have some success early, landing good shots, and as I said, might put him down. But I just don't see him being able to knock him out. I really don't. All right, so let's get on to, while we're going here, the Liam Parra, Brock Jarvis card. I'll quickly go through the undercard. So Jalen Tate, 7th round knockout of Reese Evans, 10-0 Jalen Tate, and Evans drops to 0-1. So yeah, not much to see there. Jalen Tate just got the job done. Dylan Biggs, 8-round decision over Mirko Pissy. That was a pretty good fight, I thought. Biggs did really well to win that one, 7-0. Pissy drops to 4-3. Excuse me. Good one here, Rocky Ogden. 1st round knockout of Ben Cameron Hands. This kid can fight too. He's a good young fighter. 3-0. Ben Cameron Hands is 3-1. Or drops to 3-1. A bit of a shot knockout, that one. It caught him early. Ogden, I think, has got a really good MMA background, if I'm not mistaken, I think. But he's got the goods. He can do some damage, Rocky Ogden. Needs obviously to get some more fights under his belt, but really good knockout there. Mateo Tapia, 15-0 with a 10-round decision over Abdoulaye Mayweather, who drops to 7-1. Well, Tapia, I was surprised that Mayweather didn't engage Tapia. No, it's again easier said than done because Tapia is a really, really good fighter. Mayweather was a little bit too much on the back foot, a little bit reactive for me. Made Tapia's job pretty easy. What's next for Tapia, I suppose we'll see. He's a very, very good prospect. Some good fights out there for him, maybe. Jade Mitchell, Rowan Murdoch, two that sort of spring to mind. Maybe Bilal Akaway, although he's got issues with his back. So we'll see what happens there. Look, I'd like to see more from Tapia. He's been moved along pretty well. He's obviously, as I said, he's 15-0. But I'd like to probably see him now start stepping that up. Mayweather was a good, durable opponent for him. But I think now's the time to start stepping him up to world level. Obviously got the backing behind him now. So Mike Altamura, of course, is his manager, so he's in really good hands there. So I think now's the time just to see what he's got. And what better than an Aussie showdown against Jade Mitchell or Rowan Murdoch? That'd be awesome. Or I know Isaac Hardman even maybe, although Isaac's middleweight, of course. The girls, really impressed with Sky Nicholson. She had an easy 10-round decision over Christina Jacobs. Sky now 5-0. Jacobs is 6-4. She got a little bit of flack, Sky Nicholson, because she did say she's almost ready to fight for a world title now, or at least within 12 months. Look, I think if Ebony Bridges can fight and win for a world title within 5 or 6 fights, Sky Nicholson certainly can. She's a very, very talented fighter. The only drawback, of course, is she a big puncher. Those hands down, not really sure I like that once you start getting up in class. Not to say the girls are big punchers, but anyway, a punch is a punch. If you're getting hit because your hands are down beside your waist, it's just a needless risk to take. But yeah, Sky Nicholson's got all the tools. I think you can tell she's starting to try and set down and throw a few bombs, and she did drop Jacobs, but that's what I probably would suggest from Sky Nicholson going forward. Just she's obviously got all the talent and ability in the world. She just needs to learn, again, to set down her punches and let a few go. I was getting pretty frustrated watching the fight, I will say, because Christina Jacobs just continued to let her move to her right. So she was jabbing and hooking the whole way, and I kept saying, Mousy Jacobs, you just got to start moving her back to Sky's left. So it takes away that jab and her right hook. Yes, she's still got the straight left, but it's nowhere near a weapon as what her hook and her jab is. And if she had just moved her to her left, I think she would have had a lot better chance of slowing her down a little bit and landing some punches. But Sky Nicholson, a brilliant young talent, and I've got no doubt that she'll be a world champion. Now, this is the one that might get a few comments here. Dempsey, McKeon, Patrick Corte. Now, I'm going to be probably the minority here. I don't see it with Dempsey McKean. I'm sorry. I think from what I saw in the weekend, look, Patrick Corte, look, he come out and threw a few bombs. I have no idea how this guy was 18-1. I will say, because God knows who was fighting over there to get that record, because he was a very, very average fighter, and he was a spoiler. He was tying Dempsey up and bending down low and holding and all the rest of it. So it was really hard for Dempsey. But from what I saw, for me, Justice Honey is clearly the number one heavyweight in Australia, even after 5 or 6 fights, whatever he's had. I think if they fought, I know there's talk that Dempsey might fight Anthony Joshua, which would be great for Dempsey. I really hope he gets that fight. If Eddie Hearn's to be believed as far as being AJ on this world tour, fighting Dempsey McKean at the Gabba, I think he said he'd love to have it. That would be awesome. I'd be wrapped for Dempsey if he got it. Gets probably paid a couple $1 million, fighting in his hometown, chance to fight one of the best in the business in AJ. But from what I saw the other night, I think if he fights Justice Honey wins clearly. I think he's too fast. He's got too good a movement. I know there's the knock on Hooney as far as his power goes, but I didn't see a lot from Dempsey either as far as his power goes. I know he's knocked a few out along the journey. I've just got my doubts whether he can really handle that top class. I hope he can. I really hope he can. He's in great hands with Angelo DiCarlo and Matchroom, of course, Eddie Hearn. But yeah, I just need to see a bit more from Dempsey to be convinced. I hope I'm wrong, but from what I saw the other night, I think Justice Honey is our number one heavyweight. Again, just an opinion. So we'll see what happens there. So on to the main event. Liam Paro, Brock Jarvis. Well, there's not really a lot to be said about this except, wow. Liam Paro, what a win. Brock, look, it's easy to say in hindsight. It really is. I did pick Liam Paro to win on points. I will say I never expected to happen what happened to happen. Not in a million years. I thought that, I did say last week on our preview show that I thought Liam was too smart to get caught on the ropes or in the corner and let Brock just muscle him in there and keep him there like he's done with a lot of his smaller opponents. I thought that if Liam keeps him keep on the move and keeps it in centre ring, that he would have too much for Brock, but I never saw that coming. Now, I'm not sure what Jeff told Brock coming out, but I think no matter what Jeff told him, I think the emotion and the adrenaline and all the excitement sort of got the better of Brock, and he come out 100 miles an hour, which played right into Liam Paro's hands because he just stood at a distance and picked him off, lined him up for that big shot, and just nailed him. And I think Stevie Spark, what I said in the commentary, who I was wrapped in, by the way. I don't know about you guys. Stevie Spark was excellent in his commentary, I will say. Could be a future for him there. I thought he was really, really good. Jeff Horn, you probably could learn a little bit from Steve, but that's another thing. But what he did liken the knockout to Manny Pacquiao over Ricky Hatton, and I said exactly the same thing to my wife. It was a beautifully timed punch coming around that right hand and just a left hook from a southpaw stance and just nailed him, and he went down. Tried valiantly to get up, went down a couple more times. But as I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Was it too early? Look, probably. But I don't begrudge him for getting in there. He was young enough to have a crack. He's only 24, I think, or whatever it is. Plenty of time to come back. I'm just hope it hasn't really dented his confidence going forward. I hope not. I don't think it'll damage him, psychologically, because it was a shock knockout. It wasn't like it was the 10th or 11th round where he'd taken a lot of punishment and was knocked out. It was a clean knockout early. I don't think it'll affect him too much. But he's going to probably have to drop back in competition a little bit. But yeah, he come out, all guns blazing. Liam just picked him off, timed that left hand beautifully. And because Liam's not a big puncher, but you can see there you don't have to be a massive puncher to get the knockout. Timed beautifully. The punch only probably travelled that far. It was just beautifully delivered and executed. And that was it for Brock. But look, full of admiration for Brock. I'm sure he'll be back. He's a great young kid. If you've met him, he's a great young guy. And I really hope he comes back and gets back on the horse and gets back in the winner's circle and goes again. Jeff's probably got to work on a few things, but look, end of the day, it can happen. He got caught cold, and it's happened to some of the best fighters out there, and it will continue to happen. And I'm sure he'll learn from it and come back a better fighter. But it was hard to see. And look, one thing I was going to say as well. I was watching the replay again today. I know it only went 2.5 minutes, so it wasn't much time out of my day. But you saw two sides of the sport: what we love about it and what we don't like about it. You had Liam Paro lifted up to the sky, and his followers and his team, and going crazy and how great it was. And then you see Brock Jarvis on the ground, being with the doctor over him, his team over him. Obviously, his team upset. It was pretty hard to see when someone goes down and gets knocked out like that. So you sort of see both sides of it, and as I said, it's what we love about it, but also what we hate about it as well. So, but what do you guys think about Matchroom's foray into Australian boxing? I thought it was a success. I don't think they would have been overly wrapped with the crowd though. Again, a gut feeling. It definitely wasn't a full house. I think they said it was a sellout. Don't think it was. And when maybe there's a couple of thousand people there for an event of that size, it wouldn't have been cheap to put on. I'm not sure whether Eddie would have been really happy with that. But time will tell whether he'll be. Oh, I'm sure he'll be back, of course. But whether he would have maybe reassessed the market and what he does going forward. So I'm just out of focus here. Going forward, if he has a few more events that maybe don't measure up, what he does. So remains to be seen. Quick one there from Expert Limit again. Errol Spencer Crawford should be entertaining and good fight. Also, I heard Rolly's fighting Adrian Broner. Yeah, actually, I did hear that too, mate. The build-up will be definitely sell. It will be a shit talk competition. Yeah, certainly will be. And again, Broner, geez, where do you start, eh? Geez. A wasted career, if you ask me. Just a wasted career. I hope he saved his money. I hope he hasn't squandered it, because I don't see many big fights for Broner on the horizon. Unless he turns himself around, turns his attitude around, his commitment to the sport. But, geez, he was such a brilliant fighter in early days and just hasn't delivered, unfortunately. Yes, James Hoodie is a gun boxer, and I'll stand by it. I think he is our best heavyweight in Australia by a mile. Just, again, my opinion. I think Lucas Brown might have called out Dempsey afterwards as well, and that makes a lot of sense. That would actually, if the AJ fight doesn't happen, Lucas Brown and Dempsey McKean is the ideal second fight on the Matchroom calendar, I think. That would be massive. Big heavyweight fight. Maybe Joseph Parker's another one, although Parker's probably going to need a bit of time off, of course. But Brown and Dempsey McKean, I think, makes a hell of a lot of sense. And I think down the track you might see Sky Nicholson and Beck Hawker. I think Beck Hawker's obviously with the Carlos, and Sky's with Matchroom. They're obviously in cahoots. That will be a big fight in the future, which would be awesome to see. I'd love to see. And on top of Ramadan versus Johnson and Ebony Bridges and Shannon O'Connell, and who knows, it's just great. Good luck to Dempsey. I agree, Honey, our best in heavyweight at the moment. Yeah, and I'm not having a go at Dempsey at all. From what I've seen, I just think Justice is a better fighter. And geez, when Justice has got 15 or 20 fights under his belt, he's going to be tough to beat. He's going to be really tough to beat. I just hope they don't rush him along too quickly. Those big heavyweights, they're dangerous, and I just hope they give him time just to ease into it. I mean, what's he had, 6 fights, I think, now? Give him another half a dozen fights and then step him up. But who knows what will happen? Dean L events, Dean Lonigan that is, has been known to step him up pretty quick, and they've delivered, so we'll see. James again, Paro started quick and aggressive. He did, even though he was on the back foot, he was letting a few go, and he wasn't backing off from Brock. And, it was just a stellar performance. Jarvis wouldn't look at him during the ref's instructions, the only real face-off, yeah. That's the only face-off that counts, James. Good stuff, I agree with that. Shane, spot on Lyndon. Hooney breaks Dempsey down, then basically bashes him, yeah. He could. I just think Hooney's just everything that Dempsey brings to the table. I just think Hooney faster. Look, it's an argument whether he punches harder, because I don't think Dempsey's a big puncher either, but I think his ability, his speed, his footwork, his range of punches, his combination punching, I just think he's just a better fighter than Dempsey, and records can sometimes be deceiving. I think Dempsey is now 22-0. Quality of opposition, from what I've seen, hasn't been overly great. Not that Justice has been great either, but I still think actually probably Joe Goodall's probably, and even Joe Goodall's especially, is probably better than anyone that Dempsey's fought. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. But we'll see. Liam Paro. I can't remember who asked before about his credentials as far as getting a shot. I wouldn't get too excited as far as the Brock fight, as far as, now Liam's, he's made it. He's up there with to be able to fight the Lopez's of the world and Josh Taylor's and those types of guys. I'm not quite sure you can say that based on that fight. But this kid is an excellent fighter. I think he'll definitely give all those guys all they can handle. Is he good enough? Well, we'll see. It depends on who he fights. I don't think he's at the level of a Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez, just hand on heart. But there's plenty of other guys out there. There's other titles that are going to be on the line. So he could get a version of the world title, no problem. Or at least fight for one. But he's doing everything he possibly can to put himself in a position. He's over in Vegas. He's getting all the sparring. He's training with great trainers over there. He's putting himself out there. He'll give himself every opportunity to get that world title. But sometimes it comes down to timing and who you fight. Of course, George Kambosos beat Lopez, so it's doable. But I just don't think Lopez is going to make that mistake again, especially against another Aussie, I wouldn't have thought. And Taylor, even though he wasn't impressive against Catterall, I think he was going to fight him again, obviously. But I think he's a lot better than what he showed. But who knows, he might hang around, he might go up. So it might just be Lopez that he's got to worry about. So we'll see. True Tank maybe a slow starter, but he learned his lesson from his fight against Pitbull. Yeah, he did. I think he definitely would have learned his lesson about that. Unbelievable. Liam touched 3 times. The left's going backwards and basically said righto and stepped in before he did. But you can see it was like a bang, bang. He kept coming. Bang, bang again. He kept coming. It's all right, well, have that. Oh, sorry, left hook right to the jaw. And I don't think Brock did a hell of a lot wrong in that instant there, because you see, if you watch the replay, he actually come in behind the behind the right hand and just caught him flush. It wasn't like his hand was down here or anything, and he caught him. He had it up and he just sort of went behind it. So it was a beautiful punch. Absolutely beautiful punch. But, yep, he is unbelievable, Shane. And I think he'll give it, as I said, he'll give it all he's got. Successful DAZN debut. Yeah, I think so. As I said, the crowd, that'll probably work out. Maybe the weekend and all the rest of it mightn't have been the right weekend. I know they struggle with the venue and dates and time and all the rest of it. But I think the show itself was great. I really loved the girl they had on there as the host. I thought she was really good. Jeff and especially Steve Sparks were great. Steve Spark, I thought they were really good. Of course, Ben Damon, of course, is always a good commentator. So, yeah, no, I thought it was a really good debut. But as I said, it's just a matter of whether, going forward, whether the crowds will continue to build. Because at the end of the day, it's great of Eddie Hearn to say the market's here and it's all good and we've got DAZN. They still need people to turn up. So that's key to me. And it was a pretty big Australian fight when you think about it. So, only time will tell. Ryan versus Pitbull Cruz would be interesting to see before he fights Tank. Yeah, that would actually be a really good fight. I'll give Pitbull a chance in that one. I think still Ryan Garcia wins the fight, but that would be tough. That would be a really tough one. Hoodie training, one of the best gyms in the States. Yeah, he's over there with Justin Fortune at the moment. I think he just puts a little bit of icing on the cake there. So again, taking himself out of his comfort zone, trying to learn, trying to develop, build on what he's got. I think it's great. I think it's really good, and I've got no doubt Justice Hoodie will fight for the world title at some stage. He's a hell of a talent. Jay again, I think Eddie will really try and get Liam versus Teofimo here in Australia to really kickstart his brand. Yeah, geez, that would be a massive fight here, wouldn't it? Liam and Teofimo Lopez, it would be huge. And then it might be McKean and AJ, and there's so many of these big fights that are on the rise. Steve Sparks talking about wanting to win. I don't think that's a fight that will get made straight away. I think I'll wait till hopefully Liam wins the world title. Stevie Sparks obviously got his hands full with a ton of love. Next month, I think it is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. But so many different options, so many massive fights they could bring out here. It's just awesome. Yep, Horny's training under Justin Fortune, says Steve. Yep, certainly is. Justin Fortune said you will not see the best of Horny until he's 26. How old is he? Is he 22, 23, I think it is? And for a heavyweight, look, who knows, it might even be later than that. It might be 28, 29, even 30 before he really hits his peak. Either way, I've got no doubt he'll be at least fighting for the belts. Good point there too, James. Caleb Plant, left hook from Hal. Geez, that hook from Caleb Plant. Holy shit, that was a good punch. Now, I know he's copped a lot of flack about the digging thing. Look, I think if a fighter out there, if you guys have been in the ring, you understand what I'm getting at. Sometimes the adrenaline and the emotion, the excitement and everything just gets the best of you, and you probably lose yourself a little bit. That was a big knockout, especially when you have a knockout like that. He would have been just flying high. So you got to forgive him for that. I don't think it was disrespectful, and especially because Andy Durrell had been talking all sorts of shit about him. That was a big knockout though. That was great. So I still think Isaac Harbins have the knockout of the year. Don't get me wrong about that one. I think nothing will beat that one. But yeah, they were great. A couple other fights on the weekend, guys, before we head off for the night. On the world scene, Clarissa Shields, 10-round decision over Savannah Marshall. Haven't had a chance to watch the whole fight yet, just a few highlights. It was actually on when I was driving to the venue yesterday. I did pick Savannah Marshall to win, but from all accounts, Clarissa Shields started really quickly, won the first sort of 5 rounds. It was always going to be uphill after that. They are talking rematches though, so we'll see what happens there. This is the surprise one. This is the one I did watch. Alicia Baumgardner with a 10-round decision over Michaela Mayer. What do you guys think? I thought Mayer won. I thought she won 6-4, if not 7-3. I thought Alicia Baumgardner was sort of chasing tail all night and didn't. I don't think she won. There are a lot of people out there that did think she won. Depends on how you view things. I thought Michaela Mayer was very, very unlucky. What do you guys think? So put your comments in there. Before we keep going there for one last thing, Ace Boxing and Tasman Fighters will support Herm with good cards. Hopefully, great opportunity for Oz fighters to get on the international events. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, even yesterday, you got Top Rank now. They've seen a few of the fighters that were there. As I said before, Django was one of them. So there's all these opportunities for Aussie fighters, whether it be on Top Rank, on DAZN, be it No Limit, or be it DNL. So many opportunities now. It's just great. Yep, she is the GOAT, mate. The greatest woman of all time. Katie Taylor come into calculations there? Or Amanda Serrano? I think up until the Katie Taylor fight, I would almost had Amanda Serrano as one of the best as the GOAT. But anyway, there's so many you could, such a short time. There's probably a few you could probably give the title to. But 2-time Olympic gold medalist, multiple world champion. So good luck to her. In your opinion, what's next for King Kong Luis Ortiz? Since he said he plans to continue fighting after impressing himself with hard shots in his face, I wish he'd retire, to be honest, mate. I think what next is journeyman status. That's all I see for King Kong. Look, he looked okay against Ruiz, but you got to remember, Ruiz is not the most, well, he's not obviously not the tallest bloke, but he's not the most versatile guy. He doesn't give a lot of movement. He pretty much stands straight in front of you. So he was probably going to be hittable for Ortiz. But unfortunately, look, he's been a good fighter over the years, but I think journeyman status is all that awaits King Kong, unfortunately. Alicia versus Michaela should have rematched, but Alicia won undisputed first. Yeah, she did say after the fight she wasn't going to give her a rematch, but I think the industry will demand it. I think they'll demand that fight, the rematch, maybe back in the States. It was pretty unusual to see the two Americans fighting on a British card, even though it was the undercard of a great fight. But yeah, I think Alicia owes it to Michaela to give her a rematch. I really do. And I think Michaela gets the job done this time. But yeah, good on Alicia. She won it. I think it's only the WBC belt she's got to get next, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that'll be next, and then we'll see what happens. When you get hit with a good left hook, it's like an electric shock. Well, it is. If you get hit with a good enough left hook, there's no electric shock. You don't feel anything. You wake up and you've got the doctor's torch in your eyes. That's probably about it. Yeah, it's probably like an electric shock as far as the reaction of your body. But for the guy that actually gets hit with the left hook, he wouldn't have much memory about that at all. He'd be waking up with the canaries going round and round, I think. So, just a brilliant punch. And a good point, whoever said it before. Two of them on the same weekend. That was great. Shields, 3-time undisputed, and the Olympics, yep. Yeah, no argument there, mate. As I said, there's probably a few others you could sort of throw out there, but at the moment, Clarissa Shields, the GOAT, I should say. Greatest woman of all time. So, what's next for her? Obviously, there's the rematch clause there, or option there as well. And I think she might have said afterwards that she would look to give her a rematch, probably in the States. So, again, we'll see what happens there. Another one, of course, was Deontay Wilder over Robert Helenius. What did you think of that? Now, we all know that Wilder is a massive puncher, but I didn't actually get it loaded, or else I would have put it up. When he lands the right hand on Helenius, his eyes are closed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because he was coming at him and he's wearing up, but his back, or he's got all his weight on the back foot. His arm only travels about that far, and he actually lands almost with the inside of the glove. So how that knocked Helenius out that way, I'll never know. Obviously, it landed on the money, but head up in the air, eyes closed. It lands like that, travels about that far. I'm just staggered that he was able to do that much damage. Not to say there's anything untoward about it, but if that was the case when you can knock out a man the size of Helenius, and the way he did with a right hand that was thrown like that, it's amazing. It really is. What's next for Wilder? We're talking about Joshua or Ruiz next. So, who's next for him? I would think Ruiz will be next. I think that'll be the mandatory for the WBC, I would think. And Wilder's got a good chance of beating any of those guys. I don't think he beats Usyk. I don't think he has the ability to land the right hand on Usyk. I think Alexander Usyk is way too agile and nimble and skillful and fast to be nailed with the right hand. And I think even though the size difference would just be massive, weight-wise probably not so much. Wilder only weighed 214 pounds. I think he weighed 228, I think it was, or 238 when he fought Fury. So it's a massive weight drop. But that height difference is going to be crazy. So, so apart from Fury and Usyk, Deontay Wilder, good chance of beating any of those guys. Shields are looking at MMA again. We'll see what happens. I hope she doesn't. You're not an MMA fighter. Stick to the boxing. And last one, good night, guys. Yes. Well, that's probably about it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been almost 2 hours. That's probably about all the fuel I've got in the tank after a big weekend. But look, we could probably keep talking all night about this, and we will go over it again on when we record it on Thursday night. Be out Friday morning. The Boxing Deep Dive episode 52. I'll have Tassie on there and probably Peter Maniatis. Maybe we might get Noonan Boy on as well, Nick Noonan, for his views. He was with the Cambosis camp all week, and Tassie was with the Haney camp all week. So it'd be good to get their points of view from both sides of the camps and see what they have to say. But again, guys, really appreciate you guys logging on and watching this episode. I know there's plenty of other options out there at the moment. on a Monday night. So I really appreciate it. Let's start building the channel. You guys got any suggestions, or better yet, you want to come on the show? No one come on tonight. That's cool, but the ability is always there. Just love talking boxing with you guys. Always plenty to talk about, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.